Hey guys, Pete here, and today we have our third episode of our new series, Knife Talks. Today I'm going to be talking about knives for self-defense and pretty much everything that comes attached with that. So the first thing that I wanted to discuss with you guys is what I think is the most important, the omnipotent fact when it comes to carrying a blade with the intent of using it for self-defense or with the potential of using it for self-defense. I've touched on this a little bit in a couple of my other videos, but you need to be prepared to accept every consequence associated with carrying a knife with the intent or the possible intent of using it as a weapon against another human being. These consequences include legality, moral consequences, ethical consequences, a lot of consequences that a lot of people may not think about when they put that knife in their pocket every morning. So I want to talk a little bit about that first. So the legal consequences, while they may seem obvious, are kind of blurry in a lot of states. So I'm not going to get into it too much because I'm going to have a whole separate video on knife laws because they are very ambiguous, they're very confusing, they're very difficult to interpret for yourself and can be even more difficult to defend yourself in a court of law. It may seem straightforward. If someone attacks me, I'm allowed to, defend myself. Unfortunately, it is very much so not that way. There are a number of there's the Castle Doctrine, there's standard ground laws that all determine when and where you are allowed to defend yourself. Because in several states, I don't remember which exactly, and I'm not going to give you guys false information, but there are a lot of states where you aren't legally allowed to defend yourself, I'll say. That's not quite right, not quite representing the law correctly, but essentially what I'm trying to say is there are certain scenarios where you are expected to leave the premises. You're just expected to walk away. And if you were to draw a weapon, you would then become the aggressor. And in the eyes of the law, the aggressor is the important person. It's the person that they want to look at the most. And who the aggressor is in a situation can change very rapidly. So there's escalation of force laws as well. Again, I'm going to be paraphrasing most of this, but essentially, if someone comes up to you and asks you for your money, your wallet, your keys, anything like that, well, yes, you may be able to say that your life felt threatened, which is fine. However, if the person is unarmed, visibly, they don't have a knife, they don't have a gun, they're just, bare hands. If you pull a knife or you pull a gun, in some states, not all, but in some states, you are now viewed as the aggressor. You have now introduced a deadly weapon into the situation, and you have now escalated the level of violence. And there have been cases. I can't name any off the top of my head, maybe in the legal video I will, but there have been cases where someone tried to mug someone. They were then shot or stabbed by the person they were attacking and successfully sued them in court for damages because in the eyes of the law, the person who drew the gun or the knife escalated the level of violence and therefore injured the person unlawfully. The laws are a huge gray area that you have to be very careful of, guys. They're not as clear-cut as you'd think they should be. That being said, if your life is in danger, if you are with your daughter, your wife, your children, your family, or even just near a bystander when you see something happening, as much as I want to tell you guys, hey, look, the law is the law, be careful of it, and, pertain to it, the fact of the matter is, if your life is in danger, or the life of a loved one, or the life of anyone is in danger, you're going to act, and quite frankly, you should. I'm not going to tell you that you should disregard the laws, but I will say that if someone is threatening you and you have the means to defend yourself, I know what I would do. And regardless of what the laws say, I'm going to defend myself. Obviously, I'm not going to draw a gun on someone if they're giving me a hard time, but if I feel that my life is in imminent danger or the life of someone near me, I'm going to act. That's just how it is. It's not necessarily the legal thing to do, and so obviously I'm not condoning this, but I know how I would react, and I have a strange feeling that in the heat of the moment, legality is not the first thing on your mind. That being said, I feel obligated to tell you guys that you really should look up your local laws. Like I said, I'll have a whole video on where to look, what parts of your state's statute or your state's constitution do you need to look at, because it can be very confusing, especially if you don't have a legal background. So we'll put that video out for you guys later, but for now I just want to kind of touch base with you guys, let you know that the laws are not as clear as a lot of people think. They're not as clear cut, and you will not always be viewed as the victim, so be careful of that. The other side of consequences that you need to accept are the moral and ethical sides. The first one, maybe a little bit more obvious, is that if you draw a knife in a self-defense situation, That knife goes from a tool to a weapon in the eyes of the law and in just the eyes of, the dictionary definition. That knife is now being used as a weapon. That weapon has the ability to kill. Now, so does your bare hands, so does a pencil, yes, but when you draw a knife, you need to be fully prepared to take a life. That's just how it is. If someone is threatening your life, or the life of your daughter, or your wife, or a loved one, or even just an innocent bystander on the street, if you are going to draw a weapon against them, which is what a knife becomes in that situation, you need to be prepared to take a life. Obviously legally, like I just said, but also emotionally, morally, ethically. Are you prepared to take someone else's life to defend your own or to defend someone else's? That is the risk you have to be prepared to take. Now, I can't answer this for all of you out there, but while I am more than willing to defend myself, and if necessary, yes, I am willing to take a life in order to defend the life of a loved one, it's still going to mess me up a bit. I'm not going to lie. I'm not Rambo. I'm not Walker, Texas Ranger. I can't go around killing people and not feel anything. If I were to take someone's life in a self-defense situation, it's not going to be too pleasant on my psyche. It's going to weigh kind of heavy on my mind. Even if it is perfectly in self-defense, it's still a very difficult thing to do. All of you keyboard warriors out there are, oh, pussy. Look, guys, you're full of shit for the most part, unless you're ex-military. And hell, ask some ex-military guys about the first time they had to take a life for self-defense in the line of duty. It's not a pleasant thing to have to do. It's not glorious. It's messy, it's brutal, and it's sad. That's all it is. So before you think you're some Rambo ready to take a life, really give it some hard thought. If you're carrying a knife or a gun for self-defense, you need to be willing to take a life and understand that it's probably going to mess you up in the end. So keep that in mind, guys, please. This is not some, light undertaking here. This is a big deal. The other more unethical side that a lot of people don't consider is that if you draw a knife and you are not prepared to use it, mentally, emotionally, or physically trained to use that knife, be prepared to have that knife or that gun taken away from you and used against you, used against your loved ones. Be prepared to have the tool that you brought be used to kill someone you care about or to kill yourself. That's something a lot of people don't want to think about. Because again, you've got the keyboard warriors back there who, I'd take him down in 6 seconds flat. I'd draw on him from 30 yards and shoot him dead. No, you wouldn't. Most of the time, you're very, very under-equipped. You're under-experienced. You've had next to no training. The only thing you do is you carry that gun or that knife on you every single day, but you've never trained with it tactically. You've never done any shooting under pressure or any combat under pressure. You have no idea what's going to happen in the real-world situation. When the adrenaline starts pumping, when your heart starts beating 1,000,000 miles an hour, you have no idea how you're going to react. And that horrifies me as a bystander. I'll touch on this briefly, but when I see someone open carrying, which I don't get a lot of in my state of New Jersey, but when I see someone, it makes me real uncomfortable. Because most of the time, they are ill-prepared, undertrained, and just have no idea how to handle a weapon. Maybe they had to take a few courses depending on the state, but not all states require you to take any kind of shooting course, by the way. There are some, I think Georgia doesn't require you to take any, serious classes before you can conceal carry. So, that worries me. If you're going to carry a knife for self-defense, you better know how to use it for self-defense. Because if you don't, when you draw it against someone else, guess what? Now their fight or flight is kicking in, because you just drew a deadly weapon against them. Now their life is in danger. Now they're going to act. And they're going to act like a cornered dog. And they're going to try and kill you. And if that knife or that gun gets taken away from you, it will be used against you. And it will be used against people you care about potentially. Or even if it's not used against you today, that knife or that gun that that criminal now has could be used in a robbery, a home invasion, a mugging, 6 months down the road, across state lines, somewhere else. Legally, maybe you're not at fault, depending on the scenario. But morally, I think you damn well are. You weren't prepared to draw that weapon, and someone got hurt. Keep that in mind, guys. You better be prepared to draw a weapon. The number one rule you need to know in combat, well, not number one, but certainly up there, is that action is always faster than reaction. If you don't know from the second you draw that knife or that gun, from the second you, or kubaton or whatever weapon you're carrying, if you don't know from the second you draw it what you're going to do, what you're willing to do, you're probably going to lose. Because the criminal was prepared for this. The criminal knew this was coming today. In the back of his mind, he's already decided, yes, I'm willing to kill this person, or no, I'm not willing to kill this person. Meanwhile, you're over there fumbling for your safety on your gun or to deploy your knife, and you're thinking, oh God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? How am I going to do this? He's already acted. He acted an hour ago and he decided what he was going to do today. He already knows his answers, and his body can respond immediately. If you're sitting there all crossed up about what you're going to do, you're not going to do it, and you're not going to do it in time. So always be prepared, always be well trained, and be trained with any device you're using, whether it's pepper spray, a taser, a Kubotan, a knife, a gun, whatever you're carrying, you damn well better know how to use it, and use it effectively, and have it down to pure muscle memory so that your actions are decided the second you pulled whatever you're carrying out of your pocket or out of your bag. Every action from there on is pre-decided. Your mind knows, okay, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and then I'm done. If you're not at that level of preparedness, I don't really know if you're prepared to carry a knife or a gun for self-defense. That's just the cold, hard reality of it. So that covers most of the consequences that you have to be prepared for when you're going to carry a knife, or anything for that matter, for self-defense. That out of the way. A little bit heavy, but it had to be said. With that preface taken care of, now we can get into the nitty-gritty of it. What do you want to carry for self-defense in the knife field? Well, you've got a lot of options, infinite options really, and it depends on personal preference, so I'm going to give you kind of a few guidelines that you can go off of, but obviously this changes from person to person, situation to situation. So firstly, obviously, what you can carry is governed by legality. So tactically speaking, a fixed blade karambit like I have here is a cheap little M-Tech, but this thing's a hell of a knife. It'll get the job done. Tactically speaking, this is an excellent, excellent knife to have in a self-defense situation. Legally speaking, you're not allowed to carry this in a lot of places, and if someone sees you with it, an officer of the law, you're going to ask to hand it over, because this is not like an EDC kind of knife. This is a survival knife, this is a tactical knife, this is a I expect to run into some trouble knife. So legally you might not be able to carry it. Okay, well, what about a smaller option? This is a folding karambit, and it's assisted. Now, assisted knives are illegal in some states, or at minimum the laws are hazy enough that you could be arrested for carrying one. It's more inconspicuous, not as threatening as it begins, it's tactically still very usable. Again, this is a really cheap model, so maybe it'll collapse in your hands, maybe it's not the best option for it, but that is a thing that you have as an option. Another benefit of it is that it is assisted, so if it is legal in your area, you have a very fast deployment. Deployment method is going to be the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which is in a tactical situation. Again, like I said, action is always faster than reaction. It's just the facts. That's what it is. So since you're under the assumption you're always going to be reacting to some threat, either someone draws a gun or a knife on you or says, hey, give me your wallet. Well, how quickly can you do that? How quickly can you be in ready position with your knife or your gun or your Kubotan or your pepper spray, ready to go, tactically prepared, mentally prepared? How quickly can you deploy your weapon in that instance? Well, there's a couple different options for opening mechanisms, obviously, but pick what works best for you. For me, Benchmade Axis Lock, I can deploy that real fast, and I've practiced deploying it out of the pocket very quickly. For some of you who aren't as inclined or aren't as dexterously inclined for that, maybe you want another opening feature like the Emerson Wave that I have here on the CQC 5K. This little clip at the top here hooks into your pocket, and as you draw out, catches, deploys the blade. Very, very fast, lightning fast, excellent mechanism. On this knife in particular, it's not perfect for me just because of the grip that I have to get on it to pull it out of my pocket, but it's still a really good mechanism, excellent mechanism, works perfectly pretty much every time. But maybe you'd want it on a different style of knife. Emerson's whole line of knives and a few other third-party knives that Emerson has allowed to feature that mechanism all work excellently well. Now, obviously, it's whatever works for you and obviously whatever's legal for you to carry, but whatever you choose, whether it's an assisted opening, whether it's an Axis lock, whether it's a liner lock, or it's an unassisted or has an Emerson lock on it, or sorry, an Emerson opening system, practice with it. Practice with it, practice with it, practice with it. Even if it's just sitting at your desk, just deploying it 30 times, just for shits and giggles. Practice with it as much as possible until it is muscle memory, until you can deploy the entire knife and be prepared just in the blink of an eye, split second. because that's what it's going to take in a real world situation. You have to be at that level of preparedness. Now, as far as the blade itself, the knife itself, I mean, blade length is an important decision to decide on. However, it's not as important as a lot of people think. I have seen a lot of excellent, excellent tactical knives that are small and thin and will get the job done. I've seen some that are massive and will work, like a big old karambit fixed blade. They'll work too, just fine. But size is, the old cliche, size doesn't matter as much as you think it does. It's how you use it. If I have a small little knife that I can really get in there and do some good work with, that's just as good as a huge hacking machete. Machetes will give you range, and a big-ass SOG knife will give you some range, but a knife is not a range tool. This is something that people don't seem to understand. When you're carrying a knife versus carrying a gun, there's one very big difference beyond the obvious, and that's what range these weapons are meant to be used at. If you're carrying a gun is a weapon of range. You want to draw when the other person is 30 feet away from you, when the other person is 30 yards away from you. You want to draw as far away from the criminal as possible, so long as they're not, around bystanders or have another option therein, because you want to keep the distance. If they get up close to you, barring a few specialized techniques that require a lot of practice to get good at, like collapsing and folding, you're not going to be able to properly use that gun, besides just blatantly firing and hoping and praying that you hit him because he's so close. But he's going to prison yard rush you if he's like 3 feet away from you and sees you reaching for a holster. He's going to tackle you to the ground. He's going to wrestle you for that gun. A knife, on the other hand, is a weapon of very close range, within arm's reach distance. If you draw your knife when your opponent is 20 feet away, well, guess what? You just showed your cards. You blew your hand there. He now knows that you're armed. He knows what you're armed with. He knows how you plan to use it because you can see what grip it's in. He knows all of that now. So if you draw your knife and he's 20 feet away, maybe now he picks up a pipe. Because say he was unarmed before. Now he picks up a pipe. Now he picks up a broken bottle. Now he has time to draw his own knife, maybe. The element of surprise is one of the most important things you can get with a knife. As long as they don't know you have it, you have the upper hand. You want to draw it at what is almost the last possible second when they are in close. If you think you can wave it around and intimidate him to back off because you have a knife, go ahead and do that, but I'm not going to rely on that. For all I know, this guy is hopped up on meth or PCP and doesn't give a shit about what's in my hand, in which case, I need him in close to do my work. And if he rushes me because he knows I have a weapon and he can't just lazily stumble up in front of me, that's no good for me anymore. I need him to be unsuspecting, unwitting, and I need him to not know that I have a weapon on me that is close quarters. These knives are excellent for that. I can get in close. My techniques don't work 30 feet away with a knife. You're not throwing your knife, guys. It doesn't work that way. You need him in close and you need him unsuspecting. That's the most important thing to remember with this knife, which is another reason why some level of concealed carry with a knife is important. Keep it tucked away in a pocket somewhere where you can still reach it and deploy it quickly, but don't have it, brandished like on your belt, hanging out somewhere in your hands, playing with it. You don't want your enemy to know you're armed. That's your biggest advantage, is the element of surprise. That's just a quick little window into a much larger self-defense talk that I'm going to give you guys at some point. But that's something that's really important. I feel like you guys really needed to understand and to drive that point home for you today. So we've talked about legality a little bit. We talked about the consequences you need to be prepared with. We talked about the knives that you're using, your knife selection a little bit. In that same vein, real quick, blade shape is also very important. Again, karambits are tactically designed specifically for self-defense, specifically for using against another human being. They're not utility knives. They're meant for self-defense and for offense. That's what they're there for. Something that has a straight edge and a belly, you can use those just as well, but their usage is a little bit different depending on what technique you're using. But in the end, blade shape, blade length, blade thickness, it's all down to personal preference. What is more comfortable and more applicable to your personal self-defense style. But to all of that, none of that does you any good unless you're trained with it. Train every day. If you're going to carry a weapon, and this is what this is becoming, if this is your intent to use it for self-defense, it's no longer a tool, it's a weapon. If you're going to carry a weapon, you better know how to use it, and you better be damn good at it. Because if you're not, you could get killed, your loved ones could get killed, legally you could go to jail for a very long time, but I think that's kind of the least of your concerns at that point. You better know how to use it. I train with these things nearly every day. I'm no expert, but I am comfortable enough to accept the risks associated with carrying these. That being said, if it were a gun, I don't know if I'd ever be comfortable enough to carry a loaded firearm. Even if I was ex-military, 20 years of service, was incredibly competent with a firearm, I still don't know if I'd feel comfortable carrying one. Even if I was legally ready, even if I was mentally prepared, physically prepared, best shape of my life, I'll be honest with myself. I don't think I'd be comfortable carrying a loaded firearm. I just don't think I would be. There's too much risk involved for me. And that's something people don't ever want to admit to themselves, is that they can't handle this weapon. People don't like admitting that to themselves. They want to be a big macho man of, oh, I can, carry my 1911 up on my hip and I'm ready for anything. No, you're probably not. Have you ever trained with it? Well, no, but no. You're not ready to carry that weapon, and maybe you never will be. That's something I can be honest with myself about. I'm very comfortable carrying these knives, but I would not be comfortable carrying a gun. So please be honest with yourselves. If you're not ready for that level of protection, don't carry it. If you're not ready for carrying a knife, go with pepper spray, go with a Kubotan, go with a taser, something else. Something that you're comfortable with and that gives you a feeling of comfort by carrying it. Because that's what this is all about. It's about feeling safe, feeling protected. These knives allow me to feel safe and protected. And for others, maybe they make them feel really uncomfortable. I know a lot of people who, if I said, here, carry this knife on you for self-defense, they'd be real uncomfortable with it. And I can understand that and I can respect that. So please carry within your comfort level, never go beyond that, otherwise you put yourself, and more importantly, the people around you in danger. So keep that in mind at all times, guys. So this has been my, I want to say brief, but it's already a 20-minute video, but this has been my somewhat brief overview of knives for self-defense, some of the key points. Thanks again for watching, guys. I hope you're enjoying this series. Leave a comment down in the description what you guys think. Do you agree or disagree with any of the opinions you heard in here? Do you feel like I left something out? Do you want to talk about something you may have heard, some self-defense myth? By all means, come to me. I'm no expert, but I know a decent amount and hopefully can answer your questions. So thanks again for watching, guys. Until next time, keep your edges sharp and your minds sharper, and I'll see you in the next one.